Good afternoon. I'm Joel Franklin. Welcome to JLG's Zombies, Ghosts, and Other Creepy Tales with Jeff Strand and Leslie Bermel. Jeff Strand is the four-time Bram Stoker Award-nominated author of over 30 books, including A Bad Day for Voodoo, I Have a Bad Feeling About This, and his latest, The Greatest Zombie Movie Ever, all of which have been JLG selections. Cemetery Dance magazine said, "No author working today comes close to Jeff Strand's perfect mixture of comedy and terror." Before we hear from Jeff, I have a few housekeeping items. Please turn off pop-up blockers in your browser, as these may cause problems when viewing the webinar. If you're experiencing any technical problems, please use the Help button on the audience console, and the webinar tech team will get to you as soon as possible. If your screen becomes locked, try using F5 to refresh. If you're on a Mac, use Command R. Need credit? A certificate for continuing education credit is available in the certification folder. It will also be available in the archived presentation. If you have any questions or comments, you can send those in at any time via the red Q&A box. And please join the conversation on Twitter. You can tweet us at JR Library Guild and use the hashtag JLGWebinars. Leslie, I understand that you like to read spooky stories. Is that right?
Oh boy, is that right, Joel. I can't get enough of books that give me that little spine tingle. And what's even better is when I read a book that does that and makes me laugh out loud as well. And that's what I get when I read Jeff's books. Hey, Jeff, I remember when our editorial director, Susan Marston, told me about some books that she really loved, and one of them was A Bad Day for Voodoo. She warned me not to read it in a public place, and guess what? I didn't listen to her. I read the book while sitting on a plane, and I made such a spectacle of myself. I had tears streaming down my face. I was laughing out loud and gasping with every turn of the page. Why don't you tell us a little bit more about my favorite book, A Bad Day for Voodoo?
Basically, it was written to cause socially awkward situations for people like you. So anytime someone reads my books and people stare at them, I consider that a badge of honor. Unless it's because they're fleeing the book down the aisle and hitting someone. But Bad Day for Voodoo is about a kid who is falsely accused by his history teacher of cheating on an exam. And so his friend, who's not the most trustworthy friend, said, "Look, I know how bad this was for you. I know you're upset. We're going to get revenge. Here's a voodoo doll." And of course, he doesn't believe in voodoo dolls at all, but he figures, we'll try it. So during class, he sticks a pin into the leg of the doll just to see what happens, and his teacher's leg basically flies right off.
Oh, across the room.
Really
it was
disgusting display.
That scene was great.
So that's the kind of book it is. That's where the problems begin, because now he's got a history teacher with only one leg and a voodoo doll. So the next problem is that he ends up with a voodoo doll of himself that gets stolen. So now it's a race to get the voodoo doll back before he meets the same grisly fate as his teacher. And it's a really, really goofy comedy book. It's not, it's filled with gore through the whole thing, but it's not disturbing gore. It's silly gore. So it's not something that's going to cause sleepless nights and nonstop horror in your life, but it's a goofy, splattery comedy.
It was fantastic. And then your latest book is called The Greatest Zombie Movie Ever. And that's in our paperback high school category. And would you tell us more about that book?
That book is about three best friends who have been making YouTube videos since they've known each other, and they decide, we need to do something more ambitious. We're going to make a movie. But they're not just going to make any movie. They're going to make the greatest zombie movie ever. The problem is that they have virtually no money. They have no real resources, and they have a lot more passion than they have talent. So it's kind of based on my own experiences at that age where, if I was going to make a movie with Star Wars figures, it wasn't just going to be my friends and I making a movie with Star Wars figures. It was going to be the greatest movie ever, and it was going to make $100 million and play in theaters. We were way more ambitious than we had any right to be. And it's another goofy comedy, not as insanely over the top as A Bad Day for Voodoo, but it is a pure comedy, and I'm a huge, huge zombie fan, and I think the book conveys a love for zombie cinema.
And I love the fact that Justin has a love interest that he's cast as his lead in the movie.
Right.
Do you always blend your horror with comedy?
Pretty much always. I've written a bunch of books that you would call horror comedy. Sometimes the balance switches from one to the other. A Bad Day for Voodoo is pretty much pure comedy. Greatest Zombie Movie Ever is pretty much pure comedy. But then I've got some where the balance is a little bit more on the horror side. But yeah, there's pretty much always both elements. I'm a big fan of both, and I try to mix them up.
And you don't write just for kids. As we were talking before we started the webinar today, you've got an adult book that you're working on right now.
Right, I'm working on an adult vampire novel called Miles of Night. The majority of my books are adult fiction, and then I've done 3 published young adult, and then my 4th young adult novel will be out from Source Books again, and that will be out April of next year, and it's called Stranger Things Have Happened, and it's about a teenage illusionist, and it's another comedy.
Nice. I can't wait to read that. Well, we have several other books that we're going to talk about today, and we'll start it off with this great book called Julia Vanishes. This book is about a girl who lives in a city that's banned all forms of magic, and it holds the town holds, or the city holds, these public cleansings where they drown witches. It makes me kind of crazy a little bit. So it kind of takes you back in time a little bit to those early eras, maybe the Victorian times, where Julia's mother is actually drowned when she's very young, and she knows that she doesn't have the same skills as her mother, but she does possess a unique set of skills. That's the fact that she's able to blend in with her surroundings and become unseen. She's not, she's learned that crime pays, and so she spies and she steals, and her latest job is paying her very well, but she does not like the job. She knows that she needs to get out of it, but walking away could have very terrible consequences for Julia. I think this book is going to be one of those books that people are going to gravitate to. What did you think about it, Jeff?
That's great. I'm, anything with witches and serial killers, I'm all for it.
I know, right? Serial killers.
It's the first in a trilogy.
It's a good first in a trilogy, yes. And definitely serial killers have a place in our hearts, don't they? The next book we're going to talk about is called The Leaving, and this is in our Mystery Adventure High School category. In this book, and I think there's been a couple books that have been kind of like these where, and maybe a TV show or two, where some people have gone missing. In this case, 6 kindergartners went missing, and 11 years later, 5 of them returned. 1 has not, and they have no recollection of what happened to them. Jeff, would you want to tell us more about this one?
That's pretty much it. They come back, they behave like regular teenagers, but they have a huge gap in their memory, and they have no idea what has actually happened. I do want to share one of the greatest author blurbs I've ever read, which is, The Leaving isn't one of those books that creeps up on you. Instead, it throws you in the back of an unmarked van and speeds off before you even have time to wonder what's going on. That's Bennett Madison, author of September Girls. That quote right there is enough for me. That's all I need to pick up the lead.
Yeah, that one was great. And I also loved Emily Lockhart's blurb, too. It says, "You will not sleep, check your phone, or even breathe once you begin reading The Leaving." This is a page-turner for sure, and almost every chapter has a cliffhanger that will make you want to stick with this book until you finish it for sure.
But you should breathe multiple times while you read it.
What did you say?
Despite the quote, you should breathe multiple times while you're reading the leaving. You should not. I
Absolutely.
disagree with the idea that you shouldn't even breathe once because it's just not good.
It's a fantastic book. I think everybody's going to really enjoy it, especially if you like these kind of mysteries where you're left dangling for a long time trying to figure out what's happened. A Taste for Monsters is up next. I love the title of this book. I was so intrigued with the title. This book is written by Matthew Kirby, and it's set in 1888. Jack the Ripper is terrorizing the city of London, and Evelyn's a young lady whose face has been disfigured after an accident at a matchstick factory, and she's out trying to find work. And she goes into the London hospital and asks to become a nurse, and they give her the job of maid to Joseph Merrick, who maybe you'll remember is a.k.a. the Elephant Man. When Evelyn and Joseph kind of develop this easy relationship because they both have an appreciation for them as people as opposed to what their faces look like, this relationship kind of helps them understand each other's pain. When the ghosts of Jack the Ripper's victims begin haunting them both, Evelyn and Joseph Merrick is becoming very ill from these hauntings, and it's up to Evelyn to kind of face her fears and get out into the world and find a way to lay these ghosts to rest. I think this one is going to maybe garner some awards this year. What do you think, Jeff?
You can't not win awards if you've got Jack the Ripper and the Elephant Man.
Right.
Having either one of those elements, you've got a winner. When you've got them combined, there's no stopping that book.
I loved it. Let's talk a little bit now about a book called The Messenger. And this is about a girl whose family have gifts, and the gifts are received on the person's 15th birthday. And so Evie, on her 15th birthday, receives her family's birthright, and that's a gift. And her special gift is she says, as she claims, I see dead people. You'll remember that statement from a movie from many years ago. Evie, however, does not want her gift. She, in fact, tries very hard to ignore it. But when a ghost girl named Tommy refuses to be ignored and continues to appear in Evie's world, Evie has to find a way to help Tommy and hopefully keep her normal life normal. And that becomes a challenge for poor Evie. She's got a new love interest. His name's Buddy. And a girl, kind of deserves a normal life, doesn't she?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Jeff, I know that you would like to talk about Natalie Richards' new book called One Was Lost, which is going to be appearing in our paperback high school category in our next collection, our spring and summer collection for 2017.
Yeah, One Was Lost. It's by Natalie D. Richards. I actually read it over the weekend and absolutely loved it. It's kind of a Blair Witch Project type vibe. It's about a group of high school students who basically go out camping into the woods with a couple of their teachers. Unfortunately, there is a flash flood and half the group gets separated. So things were already working out badly for their trip. But it gets worse when they wake up and all of them have realized that the water they've been drinking was drugged. And in particular, their teacher's completely out of it. So now they've lost the adult authority figure who kind of knows what's going on. And things get a little bit worse when they wake up and realize that they all have words written on their arms in magic marker. So one character has deceptive, one character has damaged, one character has dangerous, and the narrator has darling. So it's not just that nature is against them, it's that there is someone out there doing something. And it's a sort of a suspense, mystery, creepy novel. You get through the entire book, with question after question, what's going on. You keep thinking maybe you know where it's going, and you're wrong. It's a really very suspenseful. The mystery is outstanding. There is when it's resolved, it's a very satisfying end, but you'll spend pretty much the entire book not sure what's going on with it. So if you're into scary stuff about being lost in the woods with perhaps someone stalking you the whole time, it is definitely one that I highly recommend.
Stalking in the woods? Ooh. No thanks. I prefer to see my stalkers. Hey, why don't we talk a little bit about this series called Lockwood and Company? I've seriously enjoyed every single one of these books. These are written by an author named Jonathan Stroud. He lives in the UK, and there are 4 of these books now that have all been exceptional. So the story is about a girl named Lucy who joins this group called Lockwood and Company. There are 2 other young men who are part of this psychic detection agency, and they're all operatives. London, as it were, is overrun by ghosts, and only children are able to help contain them. They are deadly in some cases to adults and to children, but the children are the ones who are able to go out and hunt them and contain them with a lot of different things. Some of the things that we probably have grown used to seeing, like salt and other methods. But the operatives, these 3 operatives are trying to compete with larger, more established agencies, and so they take on some jobs that the other agencies don't want or have failed at. And the first book in this amazing series, by the way, has been movie optioned. So I'm by Universal, as a matter of fact. So I'm kind of hoping that we're going to hear more about the casting for this movie, hopefully soon. These have been really great. The newest one, called The Creeping Shadow, I think all of these actually have appeared in our mystery adventure for middle school. Jeff, do you have anything you'd like to add?
It's got a talking skull in a jar. So whatever else you think, if you're into books with talking skulls in jars, then you need to pick up this series. That's what did it for me.
That talking skull in a jar, I can't wait to see what happens with him, because he's been kind of this odd character that has appeared, I think, in book 2 or 3, who is very sinister in a lot of ways, but he seems to have an affinity for Lucy, and it's kind of fun to see the exchanges between Lucy and the talking skull and jar. She doesn't take any grief from that guy. I'm calling it a guy because that's just, All right, let's talk a little bit about the Jacobi series. These books are set in New England during the about 1892, and Abigail Rook is new to town. She's immigrated from Europe, and she's in town looking for work when she meets a man named Jacobi. He's an investigator with a keen eye for the extraordinary, including the ability to see supernatural beings. The 2 make a great team, and I think readers will see a very quick similarity between the partnership and the comparison to Sherlock Holmes and Mr. Watson. I look at that and see that comparison pretty easily. But these have been really fun, too. And one of the things that I would love readers to know is that William Ritter is a classroom teacher in the state of Oregon. And this is book 3, The Ghostly Echoes. And these also have appeared in our mystery adventure for middle school. Jeff?
If I swipe the comment from Voya, which gave it a starred review, they also say, recommended to readers who enjoy Doctor Who, Supernatural, and Grimm. So it's in pretty darn good company.
Yeah, Doctor Who and Grimm for sure. Awesome. All right, up next is Avi's new book called School of the Dead. I remember about a year ago, Avi said, "Oh, Junior Library Guild's not going to want my new book because it's too spooky for Junior Library Guild." And I went, "What? That's not true. It's never too spooky." And School of the Dead is a Junior Library Guild selection, and it's in our high-interest reading for middle school. And School of the Dead is about a boy named Tony who lives with his family and extended family. Uncle Charlie is part of the family that he lives with, and Tony looks at his uncle as kind of strange, and he's a little oddballish. He constantly talks about ghosts and spirits, and Tony just thinks he's kind of fun. They're fast friends. They have a special friendship together. But when Uncle Charlie dies, Tony's kind of beside himself because he's facing a new move to an entirely, like thousands of miles away from where he lives, actually to San Francisco. And he's going to be attending a new school where his Uncle Charlie attended. And when he moves and he's about to start school, he starts seeing Uncle Charlie on corners and in school and in different places, and he can't understand how it is that he's seeing Uncle Charlie in all these places. And he's beginning to wonder if Uncle Charlie's tales of ghosts and spirits are true. And if it is, what is Uncle Charlie trying to tell him? I'm super excited for middle school students to read this book. I think it's an interesting thing when someone that you have cared about has come back and is trying to help you. Jeff, do you have anything to add?
I'm surprised he thought that the level of spookiness would keep him from being a Junior Library Guild selection, because I blew off a history teacher's leg, and Junior Library Guild was perfectly happy with it. So
they were, weren't they?
I think the spookiness level is fine.
I think the spookiness level is fine, and I think kids are going to really enjoy this book, too. So up next is a series that I have particularly enjoyed, again, one that is also written by a classroom teacher on different coasts than the Jacobi author. The Thickety is written by J.A. White, who's a classroom teacher in New Jersey. He moonlights not only as an author, but he also does great book trailers for his books, too, as well as others. And this book starts off with A Path Begins, and it's the story of Kara, who at age 5 witnesses her mother being convicted and put to death as a witch. Years later, Kara and her little brother are ignored. They're kind of shunned by the people of their village, and they're kind of on the outskirts of society and trying to hang on. Their father has been grieving the loss of his wife for all these years and is really not much of a father at all. So Kara has to take care of her little brother and take care of herself, and she ekes out a little small pittance of a living. They live in a village that is on an island that is mostly covered by a forest that is referred to as the Dark Wood or Sodir's realm. But mostly it's called the Thickety. The Thickety is a forest that's so dark and dense and holds such fearsome creatures that villagers are afraid to enter the Thickety. In fact, by law, they're not allowed to enter the Thickety. But Kara is lured there, and while she's in the Thickety, she finds a book that she believes is her mother's spell book. And when she opens it, all kinds of magic appears to her. And that's just the start of the story. It is absolutely incredible to me. Book 2 and Book 3 and Book 4 are all out, and kids are going to gravitate to this. And by the way, this is yet another series that has been movie optioned, or at least A Path Begins has been movie optioned. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to see a really good movie come from these books as well. And I think that is probably a really good time to talk to you a little bit about something that Junior Library Guild has to offer, and that is book trailers, which Jeff and I were just talking about. I think book trailers are an amazing way to get books into the hands of kids by showing them a trailer. It's an awesome opportunity to let them know about a book. So, Jeff, I'd like to thank you for spending time with us today, and we're pleased that Jeff's publisher, Sourcebooks, has sponsored a giveaway for today's webinar. Sourcebooks will be randomly selecting 50 winners from our pool of registrants today, And if you win, you'll receive a copy of Jeff's latest book, The Greatest Zombie Movie Ever. So good luck, everyone. Remember to check our website after the webcast for a post-presentation blog, and you'll find a list of the books with their links to the book detail pages. And remember to look in our Fall 2016 Live Binder for links and resources to all of these and many other forthcoming titles. Joel?
Yes, and please join us on October 17th. Our next webinar is at 3 o'clock Eastern when Deb Ford and Leslie will talk about Falling for Teen Books. That's new titles for middle and high school students. You won't want to miss it. Thanks again, Jeff, for a very fun visit and a behind-the-scenes look at all that you do. We also want to thank our participants for joining us today. If you'd like to know more about JLG and its services or our new categories, contact your account rep or send an email to sales@juniorlibraryguild.com. Tomorrow you'll receive an automatic email regarding today's webinar. If you follow the link, you can watch the archived webinar and print your certificate of attendance after 10 minutes of viewing. Until next time, thanks again for joining us, and happy reading.